Welcome to the morning call. And more trouble is brewing in the Ivory Coast as public sector officials have called for a nationwide strike in response to a reform measure on pension schemes and a call for a wage upgrade. Now, the pension scheme reform was lowering their pensions from the initial 80% to a giveaway to 50%, a 30% decrease on that. Now, there was an agreement between the civil servants in 2012, of which effects of that agreement are starting to be felt right now, coming into play last year in November when those affected by the law decided to retire. The reforms further raises the retirement age from 55 to 60 and even 65 for the highest, those who are paid highest in the country. The contributions increased from 6% to 8.33% of the stipulated salary, while at the same time, pensions have been reduced by 30 to 50 according to the categories of the public administration.
Well, the growing wave of strikes in the public sector was vehemently apprehended by security forces this week using tear gas to disperse students who joined their teachers in front of the public sector buildings in Abidjan. At the same time, 4 days after a financial agreement was reached upon between the government and the former rebel fighters who were mutinied at the beginning of the month, fresh protests erupted yesterday. In total, 5 towns, including Bouaké and Yamoussoukro, are affected by these protests of the angry soldiers, according to local media. The fired shots were majorly from soldiers who were not involved in the agreement that was arrived at on Friday evening. According to it, 8,500 former rebels integrated in the army should each get 12 million CFA francs by the end of the year. Well, the situation in the country is confusing. We try to better understand the claims of the public sector with Nyanya Zadi Theodore, president of the Ivorian Workers' Union. Mr. Theodore, more protests by the public sector officials continue, but what justifies this radicalization? Thank you. The radicalization is linked to the government's silence since the strike was launched last week, but I would like to recall that officials already held a 3-day strike in November, but the government did not respond accordingly, and we gave the government 2 months to respond. We began the strike on the 9th of January, and for 5 days, the government gave no positive response, and the comrades are completely disappointed. I would also like to remind you of our most important concern. It's the issue of retirement. A pension reform was initiated in Ivory Coast in 2012, which came into force in 2015. It reduces the retirement pensions from 30% to 50%, making it difficult to enjoy the survivor's pension of the widow and the widower, and which abolishes the death benefit of the deceased official before 15 years of service. So who questions the social benefits acquired since 1962 by the Ivorian officials? We do not agree. We therefore ask for the reform and an amending order to reinstate the acquired rights of the public servants in relation to the provisions I have just indicated. The second one is the issue of wage arrears that we dearly snatched from the government in 2009. Well, there are also other underlying issues, but these are the 2 main issues. Well, this hardening of tone, is it not linked with the resolution of mutual claims by the head of state? This is because there is a psychological effect of the stars on the whole issue of the civil servants who suddenly see it not a favorable sign issued on the side of the government, and the same government in the same country that reacts favorably to the military. Unfortunately, this makes our workers' trade union leaders difficult to negotiate a truce. The comrades of the world today are also paid their money because the Ivory Coast has the means to pay the money that is demanded. Well, do you think the state is really driven by a desire to address your concerns? No, we feel that there is no real political will in this matter, which makes it complicated. We have the impression that there is a disregard of the government for the concerns of public servants. How can it be explained that for a week and 2 days now there has been a historic general strike? This has never been the case in Ivory Coast. Officials have never taken a strike action of this nature, and that the government is procrastinating. We do not understand. This has had a bad effect on the public servants today, and it seems that the government does not want to solve the problem, and it makes it difficult for trade unionists to stop us from containing this strike. A last question, Mr. Theodore. Your ministry has been requested to wait for a forum to discuss all these issues. So why do you insist on continuing with the protests? We do not want to wait for a forum because we know how forums end up in Ivory Coast. There have been several forums whose results have never been revealed. Forums are a way to distract and to cause delays. That is why the officials believe that if the government really wants to take a strong stand on this forum, let it suspend the incriminated order as we wait to go to this forum. And then, after suspending it, we would see its goodwill and we could discuss the provisions to change at the forum. That is what we are asking for. We want a strong act to show the goodwill of the government, what it does not want to do, but the officials do not trust that this forum will be able to solve the problems.